Hello. So I'm Christina. I'm the project manager for the Living Archives Project, which is a 3-year project with the Charlotte Mecklenburg Library to share and preserve stories of Black, Latinx, and Indigenous populations in Charlotte, North Carolina. What is your name?
My name is Candice Bruinton.
Okay. Candice, are you comfortable sharing your name, or would you like to use a pseudonym for the archive?
I'm comfortable sharing my name.
Okay, cool beans. So we'll get started. So what city and state do you reside?
I reside in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Okay. And where were you born?
I was born in Raleigh, North Carolina.
Okay. How long have you been in Charlotte?
I've been in Charlotte, gosh, a little over 7 years. I came August 2014.
Okay. What are the most important things that you know about coronavirus?
Probably the most important thing is just the disparities, especially within the African American community. I know, at least for myself personally, I was traveling actually at the onset of the pandemic, and they had started kind of making the transition, saying, of course, like, hey, there's this virus out there, we need to be taking it seriously. But at the time, I don't think I realized the severity of it and just how hard it would hit the African American community until it impacted my own family. One of my cousins actually was one of the first people in Atlanta, Georgia, to be diagnosed with COVID-19 and actually succumb to the virus. So I feel like the biggest thing that I've learned is just the severity of it, just mainly because at the time, like I said, it was starting to become news for North Carolina, at least, and in the United States. But I just didn't realize how hard it would hit home, and especially how many family members and friends that have family members, as well as loved ones that have succumbed to the virus. Just seeing how hard it hit our community was definitely probably the biggest thing and the biggest shock.
Mm-hmm. Wow, I'm sorry to hear that. So your cousin,
I appreciate that.
Your cousin passed away in Atlanta?
Yes, he was admitted into Emory Hospital. I believe he was there 34 days. He was on a ventilator, 32 of them. So he's on a ventilator pretty much the entire time. I think it was definitely, the severity of it was definitely felt. We all got to actually be on a Zoom call to say our final goodbyes. So that was definitely difficult. I was thankful to have technology. I think that's something else that I've definitely seen through the pandemic, especially working in the technology sector, just how much we've had to rely on it and how it's definitely helped us to be able to connect with loved ones. But especially during those difficult times, that's something I don't think I'll ever forget, seeing how much it deteriorated his body and how quickly it deteriorated his body was definitely a shock for our family.
Wow. Do you have any fears about the coronavirus at this time, or any fears at the height of the pandemic?
I definitely do. I think I have more concerns now versus then. I think last year, because of how many people were succumbing to the virus, people took it a little bit more seriously. Now with the vaccines, while it's definitely been a step in the right direction for protecting us from the Delta variant and other variants that might be to come, I think it's caused us to be a little bit more lax, and that's caused me a lot of concern. Seeing people be more lax with mask wearing, definitely not doing social distancing, gathering in large spaces. I've seen a lot more social gatherings like concerts and different social events kind of coming back, and it seems like coming back full force. So that's caused me a lot of pause, as well as working in an industry that is essential. Definitely working in the technology sector, it was a lot to handle. We already are a 24/7 business. I work for a data center company. So we're helping to keep people's infrastructure and systems online. And I think there was a lot of fear about, as the variants have been coming out, can we handle another pandemic, another lockdown, especially with businesses, having to either shut down or downsize or go fully remote and different things like that. I think I've seen a lot of fear too of can our infrastructure, can our economy, can all of that handle another pandemic and another lockdown, especially seeing how lax people have become. Like I said, I'm happy to see people are wanting to get back with loved ones and that we have been able to have a little bit more flexibility, but definitely the fears around people getting too comfortable, because I feel like I'm not seeing the end right now, and that's a little scary.
It is scary. I thought, but not quite. Yeah. How did it feel wearing the mask and gloves at the height of the pandemic? Did you have a problem with that? Did you adjust to it well, or?
I adjusted to it fine. I think at first it was a little bit difficult, more so with exercise of wearing a mask. I feel like now it's become almost like, I hate to say it, like an accessory. We've gotten so used to wearing it that I feel like it doesn't bother me anymore. It didn't bother me really at the height of the pandemic either. I think, like I said, especially having my own personal experience, I think that's another reason why I was more comfortable wearing it, because seeing how not having any form of protection, how that can affect your body, even though he was much older, that was definitely difficult to see. And I feel like that made me much more comfortable with wearing a mask, because I think for me personally, I felt like, not only am I protecting myself, I'm protecting all of those around me. And honestly, I feel like sometimes I can be a germaphobe anyway. So I felt like it was more comfortable. I felt like it made me feel more safe or sanitary of, okay, we're not breathing on everything, touching everything. Because, before the pandemic, I felt like they were talking about like the ice cream challenge of people licking stuff and just doing very nasty things in the grocery store. So I think I was okay with wearing a mask and wearing gloves. I felt like that made me feel a little bit more comfortable, like we were being sanitary. So.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you reminded me of the ice cream challenge. Oh, that was pre-COVID. Oh,
yes.
What effect has the crisis had on your friendships and relationships?
I feel like I can see where it's definitely separated them and brought them closer together. I think technology has definitely helped with bringing me closer to my family and friends. Most of them are in Raleigh. I am pretty much solo out here in Charlotte. There are other family members and friends that are here, but for the most part, I'm here by myself. So I feel like having the technology in place definitely helped to bring us closer together. I know definitely for my friend group at the height of the pandemic, we were having, it felt like weekly or bi-weekly Zoom calls, game nights, just doing things that were fun together. So that was nice for things to kind of slow down. I feel like the hustle and bustle of life kept a lot of us apart. So being able to have kind of that time to slow down and be indoors and be able to connect was definitely great. I felt like I can also see how it impacted the relationship a little bit negatively though, only because one, a lot of my family members and friends had babies during the pandemic, either right at the beginning or smack dab in the middle, and even some that are pregnant right now. So that was a little bit of a detriment because I felt like we couldn't really celebrate them in the way we wanted to, be there for them. I know, especially the ones that had kids in the height of the pandemic, just the scary feelings around being there by myself, going to appointments by myself. When will you ever be able to see my baby? I can think of one of my friends right before the pandemic. I think their child was maybe 6 or 7 months, and I didn't see the child again until they were 2. So that was really a big jump to see of like, I've missed a lot of your life. I wish we could have been there to see those special moments. So that was a little bit of a downer. And I think too, also, now that we're back in the world, I think technology, while it was very helpful, has been a little bit of a hindrance with connections and friendships, because I feel like now we're so used to looking at a computer screen or phone screen that we don't really know how to interact with each other. I know, at least for myself, the first in-person meeting I had, it was only 2 other people in the room. I felt like I didn't really know how to talk. I felt like I was really tripping over my words because I wasn't used to that face-to-face interaction. So I definitely can see how it has negatively impacted it, simply just because we got too used to technology that we haven't been able to, I guess, separate ourselves in a way. We relied on it too much that I feel like it took away a little bit of the intimacy of connection and personal relationships of seeing people in person.
That's a really great point too. As we move back into integrating, I think there's going to be a learning curve. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. What was there a time you stepped in to help someone affected by COVID?
Not directly like doing any type of activities or anything like that. Definitely financially, I had a few friends that were impacted by COVID, whether they had it themselves or somebody within their family. So them having to be out of work. So doing kind of like, meal packaging or meal gifting or financial donations to cover them during that time. Outside of the financial attributes or financial donations, that was pretty much the length of me being able to support those people, because most of them weren't here in Charlotte with me. They were in Raleigh and beyond. But I felt like the biggest way I could give a lot of times was financially, because a lot of them were either out of work or just impacted financially, being sick and having the virus.
Okay. Have you been spending your time in any new ways?
Definitely. Something along with balancing just the personal aspect of it and having a family member pass from COVID. I actually was in the midst of launching a business during COVID. I officially, kind of did a soft launch in July, getting my first client. I didn't fully launch until April of this year, mainly because of the pandemic. So I felt like I really grew myself in new ways of launching a business. And really getting that entrepreneurial spirit has been very exciting. Connecting with people, because in technology, my role is in social media marketing. So that is the business I was able to launch, and helping African-American women primarily with their businesses. A lot of them are either small businesses or solopreneurs. So being able to help them with their social media marketing has definitely been something that I've been able to challenge myself in a new way. Being outside of kind of corporate speak and being able to impact people in a lot of different industries, whether it's health and wellness, beauty. I had a couple of coaches, whether they were health coaches or speaking coaches as well. So launching a business has definitely been a new challenge. It's been a rewarding challenge, but was definitely a lot. Balancing that as well as just my own 9-to-5 job, the pandemic, and everything that happened in the past year to a year and a half.
Wow. So you were very productive.
Yes.
Definitely. How did the lockdown change your normal routines?
I can say definitely it made me more sedentary. I feel like it's been a lot to break myself out of the spirit of laziness that sometimes comes over, because I felt like I got very used to lounging around, sitting on a couch, working from really anywhere. And I feel like that's been the biggest thing that's impacted my routine. I felt like I've really had to create a schedule for myself to be productive, because home is a place of comfort. And working from home, I feel like it was very hard for a lot of us to balance. I have to be productive in the same space that I relax or sleep or have fun in. And how can I make this a working environment? That was very challenging. I feel like I really had to strike a delicate balance and figure out how can I make myself productive, especially being at home. I'm a homebody. I feel like I really loved it the first 6 months. I still love it now, but I got really comfortable. And I feel like that's been the biggest part that's impacted me is, going into an office, you had kind of that separation as well as that organization, because you knew, okay, I have meetings, I have a schedule that I have to stick to, I have to drive home. I may have after school activities or meetings and different things like that. I feel like that really shook it up for me, of not having a set schedule. I felt like time really got lost. Organization went out the window for a little while. And I feel like launching my business definitely helped me to get back focused. So that way I could be able to relax and recharge and enjoy this time at home while we're in this remote work environment, but also to not lose, productivity, get lazy, get unfocused, get unmotivated, because it can be very easy, to do that when you're at home.
Yeah, I ditto that. please describe a fear or sorrow you experienced during the pandemic.
The biggest sorrow definitely was losing my cousin. He was somebody that was very close to our family. He was actually my dad's best friend. They were very close in age. I usually saw him around the time when he passed. He passed in April, but I usually would see him in March for CIAA. And I was actually at a conference during that time, so I didn't see him this time. And like I said, that was actually at the start of the pandemic. So I didn't really have a thought about it. I didn't think anything about like, oh, there was a large gathering in Charlotte. There could have potentially be the spread of the virus in that environment, because I didn't think anything about it. It wasn't anything that was directly impacting me. And he passed, I believe it was 2 weeks after my birthday. So I feel like it was a lot of up and down. You know, one day he would be doing well. They were like, oh, we might be closer to taking him out the ventilator. Other days it'd be like, you know, we're scared that his organs are going to start failing. We're not really sure. You know, it can go 50-50. He didn't have any pre-existing conditions that we knew of. So it was very surprising to see, like I said, how quickly and how hard it attacked his body. And then, you know, we buried him a couple of weeks after he passed. And then that following Monday, my uncle passed of a heart attack. And so it was a lot to deal with emotionally, of having two deaths so close together, both on one side of my family. And then trying to balance, you know, I'm having to work during that time, and I'm in an essential business where we don't really have any time off. Of course, I had to work with my company to take that time. And honestly, looking back at it a year later, I honestly don't think I really took as much time as I probably should have. Because I feel like not only dealing with those feelings, I felt like once I finally was able to come to a place of being, I guess, at peace, then we got thrown into George Floyd and Breonna Taylor, and that was a whole nother sense of fear, because it was like, now am I not only afraid of this virus, I'm afraid of, what if I'm sleeping and, you know, the police wrongly mistakes me for somebody and kills me, or, you know, anything can happen. I felt like there wasn't really a sense of protection. And even having some of that permeate within my workplace, I had somebody that resigned that I had never met. He was in a different office, wrote me an incredibly racist email. He tried to send it to the entire company so everybody could see it. And so I just felt like it was all coming to a head for me. I was just like, it was, you know, I'm dealing with these deaths. I'm dealing with trying to balance this new ramped up schedule, working in an essential industry, and then having, you know, the racial injustice outside of my world, and then it kind of coming into my world with that email. It was just a lot of fear, a lot of frustration, just a lot emotionally to balance. And I really had to kind of take some time away from work and away from everything to really get myself together, because it was a lot. And my boyfriend also works in an essential industry, and I felt like I was afraid for him going out there daily and being out there and having the potential to be exposed to the virus, on top of him being a Black man and seeing what was happening in the world. I felt like there was a lot of fear, especially in the summer months, of just, I don't know what to be more afraid of, this virus or the potential of police brutality, or potential of me being caught up in a situation that I might not be able to walk away from. There was a lot of fears around that, definitely.
So do you have, well, let me ask you this first. Are there any lessons learned during this time that you feel will stick with you for the rest of your life? And if so, what is the biggest lesson you've learned?
Definitely not taking time with family and friends for granted. I feel like being, especially when we were in full lockdown, I realized how much I took just driving down the road. Raleigh is only a couple hours away, but definitely missing the time of just, I could just drive and go home and not having to worry about, you know, my safety or my health when going there. So definitely time with family and friends. I think the biggest lesson, of course, as well, is just practicing cleanliness and sanitation. I'm already a naturally clean person, but I realized how much I might have taken like hand washing for granted, social distancing for granted, especially I feel like in a city as with such a high population like Charlotte. I feel like sometimes we could be so close together, really not taking the time to realize like, hey, it's okay to distance and give each other that space. So that way we're not affecting each other or getting each other sick. But definitely cleanliness practices and time with my family. You know, not only just not being able to see them as much as I wanted to over the past year and a half, but also, you know, some of my family members, the ones that especially have passed on, not being able to see them again, and taking that time for granted because I thought, oh, I'll just be able to see you tomorrow. If I miss seeing you at CIAA, I'll see you at a different time. We were planning a family reunion. He was really the charger and the leader of that. And so I really realized the importance of family during this time and not taking that for granted and being able to have those moments of connection as safely as possible.
Okay, so this is the last question, and then I'll just ask a follow-up. But what is your biggest hope as we move forward for the world, the community, for yourself? What's just your biggest hope?
I think the biggest hope for the world is definitely compassion. I feel like if there's anything that we learned over the past year and a half is to definitely look out for each other, even if we weren't directly affected by the virus or didn't have anybody that we knew personally that contracted COVID-19, just being able to have the compassion and caring for each other in a lot of different ways, not only caring for each other's health, caring for each other's safety, appreciating and embracing each other's differences as well with, you know, things that were happening outside of the pandemic. I think it definitely, something that I hope for the world is that we will take care of each other, that we will be more serious about, you know, safety and cleanliness and sanitation, but definitely too, that we can just have the compassion for one another, that even if something is not directly affecting us, that we can still have enough empathy for each other and care for each other, that we can step outside of ourselves and do something that will impact and hopefully impact everybody positively in a great way.
Well, thank you for sharing. My last question is, do you have any additional photos or stories you would like to share with the archive?
I can. I definitely know with my cousin, there was a lot of news clippings and different things like that. Since he was one of the first people or first group, I guess, to go into Emory Hospital. So I could definitely share that to go along in the archives, because I think they might be, some of those things might be even living in the archives down there. I have no idea. So.
Oh, great. Well, thank you so much. I'm going to stop the recording.